want to get back to a story that we've been talking about for nearly 10 years now, the Crystal Rogers case.
Things are moving fairly quickly so far. The jury in the trial of Steven Lawson has been seated. The panels heard testimony from the first witness, Sherry Ballard. She is, of course, the mother of Crystal Rogers.
And throughout the trial, we'll be talking with Wave News legal analyst Leland Hulbert. He's here with us today. Leland, thank you for being here. So Steven Lawson is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. His attorney today said something that surprised a lot of us. He said his client is guilty of tampering with physical evidence, but not conspiracy to commit murder. Was that surprising to you?
Well, I'm sure the defense attorneys looked at the strategy, and it's obviously better to have if you believe there's exposure, you fall on the sword and point the jury towards the small charge to try to avoid the big charge. Obviously, tampering is a Class D felony, but a smaller felony, whereas murder, he could spend the rest of his life in prison.
Leland, we want to talk specifically now about some of those charges. So we know that Steven and Joseph are facing conspiracy charges. How come not complicity like what Brooks Houck is facing? Why the difference? What is the difference?
Well, conspiracy typically has to do when people have an agreement, like they plot and plan to commit a crime, whereas complicity tends to do more with action. Complicity, the example you always used to give was the driver of the getaway car at a bank robbery is complicit, but people planning it in an apartment to rob a bank, that would be more conspiracy if they didn't actually participate in the crime itself.
So the one big thing that we're missing from this case, this trial, is Crystal Rogers' body. So how hard will it be for prosecutors to get a conviction without a body?
Well, it depends on the evidence. I think it's a major challenge. I'm sure the defense attorneys will try to drive a truck through the fact that there's no body, but that doesn't mean she wasn't murdered. I mean, because clearly when a mother goes missing, there has to be some sort of explanation. If there's no explanation, the prosecution will tend to show that there's other breadcrumbs that lead to a circumstantial case of murder. So really the strength of the evidence, like any other case, is going to guide it. I don't think the missing body means that they can't get a conviction. It's just going to be more difficult.
Okay.
We're looking at sketches right now from the courtroom. You were on with Dawn at 4 o'clock talking about how in this case that it was a bit surprising to you that cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom given it's not a federal trial. Anything else that's unique about the case or that stood out to you so far?
Well, I mean, it's obviously unique that it's 10 years old. And from my understanding, Steven Lawson, who's on trial today, has given a ton of statements. As a defense attorney, you don't necessarily want your client giving a ton of statements because there's going to be inconsistencies. And as a former prosecutor, you don't want your witnesses giving statements because there's inconsistencies. So that's different than what you normally have. And it seems like a lot of things have been under seal as far as what the prosecution is specifically going to prove. I think people are somewhat on pins and needles. What is the evidence? Why is it so compelling that they decided to indict these people and go to a full trial?
Was it unusual? Sherry Ballard was the first to testify today, that the defense didn't question her. Is that kind of normal?
You know, you're not going to score a lot of points from a grieving mother. And they probably thought it was best just to dodge that, because I don't know if she didn't witness anything and she's damaging Brooks Houck and she's not necessarily pointing anything at Steven Lawson, I don't know what they could gain by questioning her. So I didn't hear the testimony, but that would be my assumption.
Well, your insight is very interesting. We appreciate your time.